to make the point to some of my colleagues, I know it's a bit unusual, but I asked for a private meeting with the Security Council on last Monday. I went up and met with the permanent five, including our ambassador, obviously, we're the fifth, and I laid out to them my plan. And I said, if the President of the United States, or if I were President, came to you, how would your governments react? Would you be willing to make this the world's problem? Would you be willing to call an international conference based upon a federal solution and then bring in the regional parties to insist on that solution? And the answer to every single solitary one was yes. I can end this war as president. I don't have a single solitary doubt in my mind, not one scintilla of doubt. Number one. Number two, I would point out that you now have almost every candidate using some form of what I've been saying. Brownback is now joining me for a resolution, co-sponsored by everyone from Hagel to Boxer, Barbara Boxer, to Nelson of Florida. There is an inevitability to this. There is no other answer. It does not exist. And as long as my colleagues can continue to cling to the illusion that there's a possibility, by whatever tactical argument they make, to end up with a unified central government, we are lost. There is no possibility in the lifetime of anyone around this table for that to happen. Zero. None. I'm even getting feelers from the Turkish government whether I'll come to Ankara to talk with them about the plan, because all of a sudden everybody's beginning to figure out. In the case of the Turks, they're beginning to figure out that, they didn't like the Biden-Gell plan so much before, but now they're realizing that this path we're on now is the disintegration of Iraq, not a splitting into three territories. It's not going to split in three territories, as I told you last time. It's a tribal society. It's going to break into multiple pieces. And that's going to mean that all of a sudden, Turkey's going to have an independent Kurdistan that none of the world will be able to deny, because it won't be their fault. The rest of Iraq would have disintegrated underneath them. They'll have no choice, and they'll have a war. All of a sudden, you see what we're talking about with the Iranians. The Iranians have figured out the disintegration of Iraq is not at all in their interest. The Syrians are figuring it out, and I know the major powers have figured it out. So although this wasn't the preferable place for some, they thought this sort of utopian notion of a democratic domino effect beginning. I don't know anybody who still believes that to be the case. And so I predict to you, and I hope you'll have me back again to remind me of this in several months, I predict to you every single major candidate is going to end up where I am.
Does it make any difference, though, whether somebody says it ought to be 18 states or 3 or whatever? They're going to decide. They're going to decide that. What they want to do.
Exactly right. As long as it is based upon the notion.
How do we dictate under your plan?
We don't. That's why I went to the United Nations. Because this president has squandered our credibility, we have zero credibility in the region. We have zero credibility with the Sunnis, zero credibility with the Kurds, zero credibility with the Shia. None. That's why the answer is you got to take the fifth part of my plan and you got to turn it upside down. You got to start with the international ownership of this plan. That's why I went to the United Nations. They must take ownership of this plan. The international community embrace this plan. And they will embrace this plan if the president used any sense of diplomacy to get this moving.